All right, Tuesday morning, the 28th of April, and the forecast was correct. Currently raining. And it's supposed to rain for the next few days, actually, talking about flooding even.
Turn left onto Mullet Drive.
We are on a bit of a road trip this morning. Can you guess where I'm going? Good morning!
That's scary!
Okay, back up!
Did you show them your face?
No.
Show them your face.
Okay, so before everybody goes crazy, we're practicing our pandemic protocols. So distancing, washing hands, social distance.
Absolutely. Well,
and masks. So here's his mask. There's my mask. Anyway.
That's scary.
So we're visiting the British car flea market today.
Yeah. I see you bring a big bag.
I brought my bag with me to fill it up with parts. All right, we'll come back. So if you don't follow Elin's channel, and I'm sure you do because I think most of you actually follow both of our channels.
No,
but
you keep some of them for yourself.
I do. I'm selfish. Anyway, if you don't follow Elin's channel, this is his new Rusty Beauty. It's a 1960 Triumph TR3A. I'll try to put a link to his channel below if you have a look, and you can check out his three-part series that he has on this car, from picking it up to just doing a general overview to going through his parts hoard that he has displayed in the other room. We'll go through that shortly. I'm just here basically to have a look and to maybe help him catalog some of those parts. This is his first TR3 project, so there are some parts that are not necessarily familiar to him, so I'm going to help him out identifying those, although I did a pretty good job in the last video, I think, of giving you a kind of an overview. I inundated his inbox with comments. But anyway, we'll have a wander around and have a look at this Rusty Beauty. All right, just had a quick walk around the car, and actually it looks pretty solid. I mean, there's a few issues with, fenders here and there. It's definitely a Rusty Beauty, but all in all, it's got good bones from what I can see. It's rusted out in the typical normal spots, but pretty solid, amazingly, and others, like the inner sills here at the rear, are actually pretty solid. At the fronts, the floors are rusted out, and usually the sills rust out at the footwells at the front there. But things like the transmission tunnel, where the flanges usually rust off completely, that's in pretty good shape. So rear fender's not bad. Trunk floor is actually pretty good, considering. Not bad. I've seen a lot worse. Mine was a lot worse, my 59. So wheel arches look good. Did well to get a new rear valance in the parts package, which is good because those are expensive. So I think it might have been a baby blue car, or powder blue, I think they called it, Triumph color wise. There's a powder blue club actually, and one of the clubs has a powder blue club. Wow. So you can join the powder blue club. So yeah, looks really good. A few things I was just mentioning to Elin, something like you might not notice if you're not familiar with these cars. So we had a badge discussion on your last parts hoard. So this is the right badge, the blue and white for your 1960. These are not the correct Triumph badges for here. They should be the ridge type, and I think you have them in your parts hoard back there. So we'll have to get those. I mean, no big deal. I mean, people can run with those or one of the ridged ones. I just wanted to point out what's correct and what's not correct. Little things like this you kind of might miss. The voltage regulator over here. This is for an earlier car. It has the screw-in connectors, where the later cars like the 60 should have the push-in connector. So that's something you may not catch. So there's a few things that are from earlier cars, a few things that are from later cars. We're going to go through the parts hoard and see what we can find there. Yeah, it looks pretty solid. Should have this done in a couple weeks, I think.
Yeah. Several months before we even start.
Yeah, a little bit of a trunk floor issue here. But the metal master will have that solved within a couple hours, right?
Yeah. Who is the metal man?
Yeah. Looks like it had a roll bar at one point. The roll bar mounts here. So if you want to put a roll bar in it, I've got a roll bar. You have to tell Jake that. I've got one brand new one sitting in the basement I never put in my car.
Okay.
So,
I'd be interested.
all right. I think we're going to go start looking at the parts hoard, and we'll start cataloging and putting them in bins. I think cataloging in a notebook,
Yeah.
just identifying what he's got, and then he'll store it away for future reference. All right. And while we're visiting, we may as well visit the other Rusty Beauties that are here. So this is the current project. I think we're getting a bit of a sneak peek because you haven't seen it up on its side as of yet. So there it is. This is 76, right?
74.
74. I lose track. So many TR6s. 74, 73, 76.
Something younger than me.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
Everything's before 74.
So a lot of work has been done on this car. Really good work. So yeah, that's looking good. GT6. Sitting over here waiting patiently for resumptions. Get a little dusty. You'll have to dust that off one day. So yeah, all the parts neatly arranged over here. Frame for the 74 TR6 here.
Yeah.
We're just going to stick that, put the bag on it, and we're just going to stick the frame in the bag and take it with us so I don't have to repair Les's frame. That'll make it a little easier.
I can fold it in two.
Fold it in two, yeah, we'll just stick it in the bag. All right, we'll go check out the parts hoard. Oh, there's another TR6. Forgot about that. Is that 72?
That's 70.
70.
73 on the other side.
Okay. See? You see how I get confused? All right. All right, so Elin's been through pretty much the whole tour of the parts stash. So we'll just take a really, really quick tour through and see what I see. Nice valence, new valence, expensive part, good to have. Cross tube, bumper brackets, radiator protection shield, although you don't have the radiator, but you have the radiator shield, which is here.
Yeah.
Okay.
The one that is just reinforced on your TR6?
Yeah.
Or 250?
Yeah. That does not look necessarily correct for a TR3. Could be. These are the axle rebound straps
Yeah.
for the rear axle. Some suspension bits. I'd mentioned in the comment section that these are aftermarket side screens. I think they were sold by either Ampco or J.C. Whitney with the aluminum frames, and those are the originals. I'm not sure if the material that's covering that is original, but those are the original side screen frames. So nice new.
They still have the sliding wheels.
Yep, still sliders. Yep,
I didn't know they had this.
yep, pretty cool actually. So I got some hood sticks, they call them. So, and then a nice new new grille there. Clutch assemblies, some windscreens. This is the dash capping up top here. This is where your vent pull goes through,
Yeah.
which you have on the other table. We'll identify that when we get there.
Yeah, so
New dash pad. Yeah, dipsticks. This is
yeah, somebody said for the lower radiator.
yeah, part of the cooling system, lower radiator hose, very similar to where the TR6 is.
Yeah.
So, oil pumps, road draft tube, water pumps. One looks kind of odd.
Yeah.
Crank pulley, there. Yeah, starting handles. We were just talking about the radiator needing to have the square hole if you're going to use the starting handle. It doesn't have a radiator, so you need to consider that when you're buying a new radiator, whether you want to keep the square hole or not. So that's going to have to be a decision they make. 4-speed trans, non-synchro probably. The windscreen. This is for the heater support. This is a 2-piece crankshaft pulley.
I didn't recognize it when
Yeah,
it was taken
was
apart.
separate, yeah. Bunch of good stuff. I believe these are for the brakes. That. These are the rear wing stays, fender stays.
Oh yeah.
So they go out from the frame like that. These are for the side screen mounts. This is an engine, goes on your engine block to lift the engine. Oh. That goes at the rear of the engine under one of the studs. So it goes something like that. It gets picked up by a stud on the head. This is for your handbrake gaiter. Screws to the floor. Yeah. That's the gaiter for the handbrake. That goes with that. Yeah. Something like that. So this is the correct gas cap. You had a question about the gas caps. This is the correct TR3 gas cap. That one is incorrect. I'm sure they could both be used, but that one is the correct one. Nice shiny thermostat housing there. Which one is this? This is
build kit for the transmission.
Oh yeah, got some synchros there. Cool. So yeah, under the dash, this is where the steering column goes through. Yeah. This is for the windscreen. This is for somebody to question. You questioned this. Yeah. That's the bottom of the heater. It's a little flap that you pull down to get the heat in the car. Kind of cool. The Zeus fasteners. These are for the hood. Bunch of switches, door latches, grab handles. Yeah, you've got some bearings, eh?
Yeah, they're new actually.
These are the bottom suspension bump stops. Those look like spring eyes. Those are for the rear suspension. They hold these actually. Okay, onto the bottom of your springs. Front suspension biddies. This is a steering link. Ball joints. Yeah, it's a shame about the mats falling apart. They're fairly cheap, the reproductions of those. I think they're like 25 or 30 bucks for a set, so they're not too bad. There's the badge. That's incorrect for the car. It's nice to have it though. You can sell that off and buy something else. Here's the correct ribbed lettering, or at least some of it.
Yeah.
Maybe you can spell Trump or something.
No thanks. No thanks.
So I noticed he has a one-piece steering shaft. This would be for an earlier car. His car is the two-piece shaft. These are the inner sills, so probably be needing those based on what I see on the car. There's a lot of sort of invisible areas on the inner sills that you can't see until you remove some bodywork at the rear. So I did notice he's got some damage at the front in the footwell, so he'll probably be in for a sill replacement, inner sill and outer sill replacement. The outer sills are here beside it. So these pieces here are for under the rear of the car, under the rear valence here, the closing pieces. Obviously A posts and B posts. These are for the side of the car at the rear. So here, I was saying to Elin, these can be important because he's going to have to cut the bodywork away to reveal that inner sill. So he's got perfect patch panels now. He could patch the whole thing or just cut a section out of here. I know he could make those if he really had to. I made them on my car because I was too cheap to buy them. Because these are fairly expensive actually. So anyway, you've got those if you need to cut your panels, or you will need to cut your panels eventually. Again, we were just talking about these. These are for the side of the rear valence, and these are closing panels back by where your body mounts are. And you may have to replace your body mounts. We'll have to see when you get there what they look like. But generally, the body mounts tend to rust out to the spare tire carrier. So beautiful hubcaps. So and some sleeves. Yeah, pretty cool. Spare doors, spare seats. Did you flip these over and look at the springs? Any mice in here?
No.
That looks original. That looks original. So some original seats. Very cool. This is what I was talking about with you. I was going to replace mine with foam because I was having a difficult time getting used to the springiness of the seats. It's kind of like sitting on an old bed, an old feather bed. You kind of bounce in these, and it's taken me a long time to get adjusted to those. So then the bonnets, and we talked about raised plinth versus lower plinth. Trunk pan, or spare tire pan. Inner wheel wells. Floor pan, which is actually, I believe, correct for it now that I see it. Looks like it's the correct floor pan for this car. And some spare floors. And a battery box. So yeah, pretty cool. We were just talking about the battery box replacement, and yeah, this one's a little different than mine. Mine came up a little higher and had a rolled edge on it. And I was telling Elin you would drill the spot welds out on the top of the saddle piece, but this one is a little bit lower than what mine was, so it might make it a little easier to repair that actually. So that's it. There's a tour of the parts. Guess we'll start cataloging and binning them up. Alright guys, just back at the Taj Mahal. I did a little circuit tour after visiting Elin's shop this morning, the Rusty Beauties Shop. I stopped and checked on Les to see if he'd progressed anywhere forwards on his TR6 suspension from the 73, but it's still sitting there on the bench and is untouched, so he hasn't gone any further than our last video. Anyway, just wanted to wrap up the visit to Elin's from this morning. It was great to see his 1960 TR3A shop project and all of the accompanying parts. I went through the tables, and yeah, it's amazing how many parts, sheet metal wise and just small parts he got with that project. So I think they did very well, and they should have no issues putting that back together with the things that they've got at their disposal. There's a few things missing, like a flywheel, for example, or a radiator, but those should be readily available. So good for them, and it'll be a good project to go forward on, and hopefully I'll be able to assist when we get back to a somewhat normal situation here. I'd be happy to go down and lend him a hand at the shop to put that back together whenever he starts that project. He's got his hands full with his current TR6 project for the meantime. So when he does move to the TR3, I'll be happy to go and lend a hand. Anyway, one last word. I wanted to mention that Elin and I have a supporter, our channel supporter, or I'm going to call him a benefactor of our channel. His name is Eugene. Eugene had dropped some tools off for both Elin and myself. Elin was up visiting him yesterday. Eugene fixes air tools in particular, and tools in general. And Eugene in the past has gifted us some tools to work on our projects. He's gifted us tools and lent us tools to work on our projects. And today, Elin had given me some tools that Eugene had dropped for me yesterday. So thanks, Eugene, for that. I'll put them to good use on my projects, of course. And again, as always, thanks very much. All right, that's it for now, guys. We'll figure out what we're going to do for the rest of the day today. We'll figure out another project for the or to move forward ahead on the TR250. We'll dig through some bins and go through and see what we can find. I'm running a little short on supplies as far as doing body work on the TR250. I'm out of epoxy primer. I'm very nearly out of sandpaper, particularly 80 grit, which is kind of important. So the bodywork part and priming part is going to have to wait a little bit until I can get to a store without having to do a curbside pickup. I kind of like to go in and do my own shopping versus ordering online when I'm purchasing automotive stuff. So that will have to wait for a little bit. So I'll busy myself doing other projects like this project you watched me do yesterday. Well, that was one of the reasons why I did this, not only to get away from the boredom and monotony of body work, but I wanted to do something a little different that didn't entail me needing the use of sandpaper or Bondo, for example. All right, guys, that's it for now. I'm rambling. We'll talk to you later.